I want to start this deep dive by trying something a little different. I want you to go on a short mental journey with me. If you're in a safe place to do so, obviously, please don't do this if you're driving. Maybe close your eyes for just a second. I want you to conjure up a very specific feeling. Imagine waking up, but it's not that crisp, refreshing, sunlight hitting your face kind of morning where you're ready to attack the day.
It's the opposite. It's heavy.
Exactly. It's viscous. Your limbs feel like they're cast in lead. There's this thick fog wrapped around your brain that, a double espresso is not going to cut through.
Yeah.
And hovering over all of it is that nagging sensation that something is fundamentally off.
Right, and you do that immediate internal scan. Do I have a fever? No. Is it a virus? No. But you feel undeniably sick.
It's that limbo state, feeling unwell, but the thermometer says you're fine. It is so frustrating. But that frustration is actually the entry point for the conversation we're having today. We are exploring the invisible biological link between the emotions we bury in the basement of our minds and the physical symptoms that show up on the front porch of our bodies.
It's a fascinating and honestly a sometimes uncomfortable dynamic to look at closely. We're sort of culturally conditioned to think of the body as this silent wrestle. It's just the taxi that carries the brain around to meetings, But the reality we are unpacking today suggests the body isn't silent at all. It's a storyteller.
And a loud one.
A very loud one. And it seems that the more the mind refuses to speak the truth about sadness, anger, grief, or anxiety, the louder the body has to shout to get the message across.
So the premise here is that if we don't say it, the body will say it for us.
Precisely. But the body doesn't speak English. It speaks in pain. It speaks in exhaustion. It speaks in inflammation. Today isn't about, medical diagnoses or replacing your doctor. It's a journey into that internal landscape to map out exactly how silence makes us sick.
Let's get into the specifics because the material identifies 7 distinct signs. And these aren't just vague feelings, they are specific indicators that you are actively repressing emotions. The first one is what we're calling the phantom illness.
This is the phenomenon of consistent, unexplained aches and pains. And to be clear, we aren't talking about the soreness you get after a heavy deadlift session or, tripping on a curb.
No, this is the ache with no alibi.
Right. It's the tension headache that arrives like clockwork, that vice-like grip on the sides of the skull that seems to tighten when you step into the office. But it's also neck and shoulder stiffness.
That's the classic carrying the weight of the world sensation, isn't it? You're just sitting in an ergonomic chair, staring at a screen, yet your trapezius muscles are rock hard like you've been hauling bricks all day.
And don't forget stomach discomfort. That is a massive signal. The gut is often called the second brain for a reason. What's happening here is actually pretty logical if you strip away the mystery. When you repress an emotion, let's say anger, you aren't just deleting a file on a computer. You are physically holding something back. You are tensing. You are bracing.
So bracing is the key word there. It's a physical act.
It is. Think about it. If you are about to get hit by a ball, you tense up. You brace for impact. When you are repressing an emotion, you are essentially bracing against an internal impact. You might intellectually convince yourself, I'm not angry about that comment my boss made. You smile, you nod, but your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are up by your ears, and your stomach is twisting.
The body is calling your bluff.
It is. It's somatic expression. You can lie to your coworkers, you can lie to your spouse, you can even lie to yourself in the mirror. But your fascia, your muscles, your digestive tract, they are incredibly honest. They don't know how to lie.
It's wild to think that a stiff neck could actually be a suppressed conversation. But I want to move to the second major bucket of symptoms, because I think this one is going to resonate with a huge portion of our listeners, the energy crisis.
This covers the issues of fatigue and difficulty sleeping. And these two feed each other in a really destructive loop.
Let's start with the fatigue.
Okay.
Because we need to distinguish this from just normal tiredness. This isn't just, I stayed up too late watching a movie.
No, this is bone deep. This is the kind of exhaustion where you could sleep for 10 hours and still wake up feeling like you ran a marathon in your dreams.
The analogy I found really helpful in understanding this was the background app concept.
Oh, it's a perfect comparison. Think of your brain like a laptop. You have your open windows, your work, your conversation, making dinner. That's your conscious processing. But when you are repressing emotions, pushing down grief, hiding anxiety, that takes processing power.
It's not a passive thing. We think ignoring something is passive, but it's actually active work.
Extremely active. Repression is an energy-intensive process. It's like running a massive high-energy program in the background of your operating system. You might not see the window open on your desktop, but your fan is spinning, your heat is rising, and your battery is draining twice as fast as normal.
So you're trying to open your email or talk to your partner, your daily tasks, but what, 80% of your RAM is dedicated to keeping that door to the basement locked?
Exactly. And that creates a persistent lack of energy that caffeine can't fix. You can drink 3 coffees, but the drain isn't chemical, it's emotional. You are exhausted from the sheer effort of not feeling.
And then the cruel irony, and I think everyone has been here, is that when you finally do get to bed, hoping to recharge that battery,
You can't.
you can't.
Then night watch.
Why does it always happen at night? You can go all day being fine, holding it together, and then the lights go out and the brain just turns on.
It's about distraction. During the day, we are masters of distraction. We have work, phones, podcasts, other people, traffic noise. We can drown out that internal voice. We can outrun the feeling. But in the silence of the bedroom, all the distractions are gone. There is nowhere to hide.
So the anxiety, the sadness, the anger that you ignored at 10 a.m., it's been waiting.
It's been waiting for the quiet. And suddenly, you're lying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, or catastrophizing about a meeting that hasn't even happened yet.
It feels like an ambush.
It feels that way, but really, it's just the repression dam breaking. The wall you built during the day crumbles when your guard is down at night, and that disruption of sleep patterns just feeds back into the fatigue loop the next day. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
So far, we've talked about things that are mostly internal experiences,
Mhm.
pain, tiredness, insomnia. But what I found really startling in this deep dive is when the signs become visible to the outside world. The body essentially puts up a billboard.
Yes, the visible signals. This brings us to the skin, appetite, and cognitive function. And the skin is a big one.
The mirror test. The idea that the skin acts as a canvas for our emotional state.
It is, and we see this all the time, but we often dismiss the correlation. Have you ever noticed a breakout of acne or a flare-up of eczema or psoriasis right when you're going through a really turbulent time emotionally?
Yeah, but usually we blame the chocolate we ate or the change in weather.
Right, we look for external causes. But often, even if you're telling everyone, I'm fine, your skin is just screaming, I am inflamed.
It's like the skin is trying to tell you something that your voice refuses to say.
Mm.
I'm irritated, I'm sensitive, I'm under attack.
Precisely. Inflammation in the body is often a mirror of inflammation in the mind. And closely related to this visible distress is the change in appetite. And the key insight here isn't just eating more or eating less, it's the swing.
It's the extremism.
Exactly. On one hand, you might find yourself overeating, but not because you're hungry, you're using food as a numbing agent.
Comfort eating. Those little dopamine hits.
We use the dopamine hit from sugar or carbs to mask the unresolved feelings. It's a way to literally stuff the emotions back down. You are filling the void with matter because you can't fill it with peace.
But it can go the other way, too. A complete loss of appetite.
That knot in your stomach we talked about earlier. Sometimes it gets so tight that the very idea of food is repulsive. In both cases, feasting or fasting, it's the body trying to manage these unresolved feelings through biological inputs. It's a maladaptive coping mechanism. You're trying to control the internal chaos by controlling or losing control of what goes into your body.
And while your body is struggling with food and skin issues, the brain is also taking a hit. We touched on the fog earlier, but I want to drill down on the cognitive cost. This is sign number 7.
This is one of the most frustrating symptoms for high performers. The people who pride themselves on being sharp, on being the person who gets things done. You sit down to read a report, you read the first sentence, then you read it again, then a third time.
And the words are just shapes on the page. Nothing sticks. It's like Teflon.
Or you walk into a room and completely forget why you're there. You feel dull, slow.
Is this just tiredness? Or is it something else?
It's distinct from just being sleepy. This is the cognitive cost of repression. Emotional distress impairs cognitive function. I mean, think about it. It is incredibly hard to focus on the present moment, on the words on the page, when your subconscious is stuck in the past, processing a trauma you haven't dealt with, or living in the future, worrying about a catastrophe that hasn't happened.
It's like trying to drive a car while staring in the rearview mirror. You're going to miss what's right in front of you.
That's a great image. You physically cannot be present because your emotional bandwidth is occupied elsewhere. You are technically here, but your processing power is there.
Okay, so we've mapped the terrain. We're tired. We ache. We can't think. Our skin is acting up. But I want to pivot to the mechanism. Why is this happening? What is the biology behind the mystery? The comparison that really anchors this for me is the simmering pot.
This is the central metaphor for understanding repression. Imagine a pot on a stove. The heat is on. That's your life. That's the stressors, the deadlines, the conflicts, the grief. Now imagine the contents are boiling.
But instead of turning down the heat, we do what?
We clamp a lid down tight. We use all our strength to hold that lid on. We think if I keep the lid on, the mess stays inside. If I keep the lid on, I'm in control.
But physics disagrees.
Physics always disagrees. The pressure builds, the steam has nowhere to go. Eventually, the contents won't just spill, they will explode, or at the very least, the pot will rattle and shake violently.
That rattling in the human body, that's the anxiety, that's the tremors.
Exactly. And biologically, we know what that steam is. It's not magic. When we repress feelings, we aren't deleting them. We are actually signaling to the body that there is a threat. We are telling the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, that we are in danger.
So the body enters fight or flight mode.
It enters a state of high physiological arousal. Your body dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. It is preparing you to fight a tiger. But here's the problem. The tiger isn't outside. The tiger is the sadness you won't feel.
That's terrifying, actually. So you're sitting at your desk, checking spreadsheets, looking calm, but internally, chemically, you are running for your life.
And that state chronic high cortisol wreaks havoc over time. It disrupts your digestion, your sleep, your heart rate. It disrupts homeostasis. You are literally poisoning yourself with stress hormones because you won't let the steam out.
And this leads us directly to a very specific consequence that I think many listeners will recognize. The breach in our defenses. We talked about phantom aches, but there's also the very real susceptibility to outside illness. Side number 2, the frequent cold.
Right. This is the person who is constantly under the weather. Every time a bug goes around the office, they get it. Every time the season changes, they're sick.
And we usually just say, oh, I have bad luck, or my immune system is weak.
But why is it weak? That's the question we rarely ask. Chronic stress, which is exactly what repression is, suppresses the immune system.
It's a resource allocation issue, isn't it?
Completely. Your body has a limited budget of energy. If it is dedicating a huge percentage of its resources to managing an internal emotional war, keeping that lid on the simmering pot, managing that high cortisol, it has very little left over to fight off external invaders like bacteria or viruses.
You've left the castle gates open because all the guards are busy fighting a riot inside the throne room.
That is a strangely perfect analogy.
Yes.
You are vulnerable to the outside world because you are not at peace with your inside world.
Okay, this has been heavy. We've diagnosed the problem, and honestly, it feels a bit overwhelming. It's easy to feel like our bodies are betraying us, but we aren't going to leave everyone just staring at their simmering pots. We need to talk about the resolution. How do we reclaim the narrative?
The shift here is simple in concept, but it's difficult in practice. We have to move from suppression to expression. The goal is to break the cycle, and it starts with what I call the pause.
The pause. Walk us through that, because when I'm stressed, pausing is the last thing I want to do.
Of course. You want to push through, but the next time your back starts aching for no reason, or you find yourself snapping at someone, or you feel that sudden wave of exhaustion, stop. Don't grab the coffee. Don't take the painkiller immediately. Just stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, and what am I avoiding?
That's scary, though, to look directly at the thing you've been running from.
It is, but you have to reframe the emotion. We tend to view sadness or anger as enemies, as bad feelings that we need to get rid of, but they aren't enemies. They are messengers.
Messengers.
Yes, they are data. Sadness tells you what you've lost or what you value. Anger tells you where your boundaries were crossed or where you feel an injustice. Anxiety tells you what you care about. If you listen to the message, the messenger doesn't need to keep banging on the door or hurting your back.
So once we pause and identify the feeling, then what? Because we can't just leave it there.
You need actionable outlets, and getting it out is literal. You need to move the energy from inside to outside.
So talking.
Talking to a trusted friend is classic for a reason. Putting words to feelings structures them. It moves the activity from the amygdala, the panic center, to the prefrontal cortex, the logic center. But it doesn't have to be verbal. Journaling is incredibly powerful.
I know some people roll their eyes at journaling. It feels a bit like Dear Diary.
It can, but think of it this way. Journaling is taking the spinning, chaotic thoughts in your head and pinning them onto paper so they stop moving. It externalizes the chaos. Once it's on paper, it's not rattling around in your skull.
I love that visual, pinning them down. And what about for people who aren't word people?
Creativity, paint, dance, sing loudly in the car. It sounds cliche, but these are ancient human technologies for emotional processing. Allowing the feeling to flow freely through a creative act releases that pressure valve.
And we can't forget the physical side, right? Since the problem is physical, the solution should be too.
Absolutely. This is crucial. You need to complete the stress cycle. Your body has mobilized for a fight. You need to show it that the fight is over.
So sitting on the couch and relaxing might not be enough.
No, relaxing is passive. You need active release. Exercise, a hard run, yoga, progressive muscle relaxation. These things physically burn off the cortisol. They signal to your body that tiger is gone, you are safe, you can stand down now.
It's about convincing your biological systems that the war is over.
Or at least that a ceasefire has been called.
This has been a real journey. We've gone from the mysterious aches of the phantom illness to the biology of the simmering pot, and finally to the power of the pause.
It's a lot to take in, but if there's one thing to take away, it's that honoring your feelings isn't just about mental health in the abstract. It is a form of nurturing your physical health. You cannot separate the two.
We treat them like separate departments, the mind doctor and the body doctor, but they're the same system.
One system, one story.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought on kindness. The world is harsh, it's loud, it's demanding, and it often tells us to suck it up. But you have the power to be the exception to that rule in your own life.
Even if the world isn't kind to you, you can be kind to yourself. You can give yourself the break you are so desperately trying to earn.
And here's the question I want you to carry with you today as you go back to your work, your family, or your quiet, empty house. If your body could speak clearly right now, not in aches or pains or rashes, but in clear, honest words, what emotion would it say you have been hiding from?
And more importantly, are you finally ready to listen?